To say that you guys have some really strong feelings about my videos is an understatement. Last video we talked about homage watches, my feelings about them. I made my statement very clear that I'm against. Many of you, a surprising amount actually, came back and said, take a deep breath, relax, who cares? Some said, oh, but some of these watches are even better than the ones that they imitate. I have a few thoughts about all that, so let me explain. Let's start first of all taking the clones and the counterfeits exactly out of this equation here. Many of you even commented on those, trying to convince me that buying a counterfeit watch is okay because quality is very similar, so why pay all that extra money? The watch hobby is not a sensical hobby to begin with. I understand you can get a squeeze movement into any steel casing and bracelet that imitates a Rolex watch, and that could fool most people. But does it fool you? If that makes you feel good for yourself, then great. It works for you. I'm happy for you. We're not going to talk about those here on this channel. What we're going to talk about is where there's a lot of gray area, which is homage watches that look exactly like the part, but they take out the naming and they name it something else. And I gave examples in the previous video, like Gevril watches, Steinhardt watches. Excellent quality, especially Steinhardt's. I had a couple in my hands, and I can tell you they're excellent quality. But I argued that for that kind of money, I can get something that's original to the company that I'm buying from. Seiko, for example, it's a great brand. It has its own heritage, design language, and it can serve you exactly like that. If all of you people that came here and commented badly about what I said, why do you care about buying a Steinhardt that looks like a Rolex? Rolex is probably what you really wanted. If you like the way it looks, buy the original. Now you can say, I don't have the money, I will never be able to. I said to those comments, and I did say that to these comments, aspire to buy them one day. Things like that drives us guys to do things in life. That's my humble opinion. But I wanted to talk about the design language of these watches and why it's important to preserve the originals. Because I have a design background and I know what it takes to get to a nice design and then take it to the next level. Let me explain. Many of you said that copying is nothing new. All companies are doing. I say no. Getting inspiration is another thing and copying is another. Getting inspiration starts with a mood board. In design, before you start anything, you have a mood board. The mood board will tell you what you're inspiring from. In my case, I have a design degree in interior architecture and design. And when I was doing mood boards back in the day, I would say, okay, I'm trying to design a hotel. Where am I getting my inspiration? Where is it located? What is in the surrounding area? What is the heritage of the place? And I would put these pictures together. Maybe it's in the nature. Maybe it's in the green area. What birds they fly there? What animals? Is it close to the beach? Maybe get some nice pictures of the beach. What do they do in that town or city or whatever? And put these pictures together and then get inspiration. Maybe I take colors. Maybe I take materials. Maybe I take other things. Maybe the cuisine will be different and that will be reflected in the restaurant of the hotel. So there's many things that you get inspiration from. Is it bad to get elements of already designed places? Absolutely not the problem with that. Everybody's doing it. Longines in the Hydro Conquest took something that looks like a snowflake hand directly out of Tudor's book, but they tweaked it. It doesn't look exactly like Tudor. You can tell that there's inspiration, but it's not a copy. It's not a one-to-one thing. So you can't say that Longines ripped off a Tudor design. It got inspired by it. Absolutely. Two different things. So the design process has many elements. You start with the original design. Okay, you get the mood board, you get inspiration, you get all these things you put together, and you start playing with shapes. You start making models out of it. There's a very nice video that at some point, I want to have all of us watch. It's called How Mechanical Watches Are Made in 2025 by a channel called I Make Watches, and it explains everything. The guy is in a convention and takes us in a tour on every company there and what they do, and it gives you a good idea of how many steps are in making a watch. But we're talking about branding here and design, so you have to make models. You have to make 3D models. Once you see something that you like, then you need to make an actual watch to see, to play with it, see how the threads are working, how the movement is feeling, how the crown is working. If it's a diver watch, how is the bezel working? All these good things, right? How's the thickness? How's the width? How's the lug length? How does it fit on an average wrist? All these good things need to be designed in the prototype stage after a bunch of 3D printed models. Once you do that, and once you have the prototype, and then you have meetings upon meetings about deciding what hands you're gonna put. You're gonna decide what dial you're gonna use, what materials, how much they cost, where you're gonna produce them, and then you produce it, and you take it out. Then you need to market it. You need to market it and then send it. If it's through regular distribution channels, you need to send it to ADs or wholesalers, and the wholesalers to the ADs. You need to work on all these things about a watch. And then once it's out, and once the marketing is out, and the marketing is two things. I know that we think about Rolex is marketing and all these companies are just marketing, but think what happens in the marketing area. You have these companies that not only advertise, but they advertise and they keep a consistent product, a consistent look. Think about, as a mariner, how it has changed through the last 70 years. You can make the argument for the Datejust. You can make an argument for, I would say, an Omega Seamaster. You could make this argument for Pateks. How much they've changed through the years? Very little, while being a little more contemporary and offering a whole lot more in quality. And then that thing takes time. The one thing that any new brand, all these micro brands or even good brands that I personally really like Christopher Ward. Christopher Ward is one of the best. Can you call them micro brands? Newer brands, I would say, that offer incredible quality watches. I've handled a couple. They are tanks, solidly built, and they're not copying anyone. The Trident, like a diver watch, they take elements of a sub, but they don't look anything like a sub. You're not gonna be convincing anyone that it's a sub, and it's an excellent quality. So the one thing that these companies, even companies like Christopher Ward, don't have is time to build the heritage, to build that name that goes back decades, centuries. You have companies that are centuries old. And that is not just a name on the dial. That is a connection with a company that has been around, that has seen a lot. And I'm not talking about just names. There's companies that have continuous history, nonstop. And you have that connection with that brand. They have all this heritage that comes through them through the years. everything that happens in the production process, in the design process, are kept in archives. And then they go dig back, especially with this trend lately of these heritage models in all companies that Longines really started. They go back to their archives and they see designs and they bring it to this day. But that's heritage. There's value there. It's not just a name. So when you have a company, I don't care where they're based. They can be based in Switzerland, they can be based in China. That is irrelevant to my point here. And they come and they make an exact copy of it and they sell it to you. And even if it's a great quality, we're not going to argue about quality. Let's say it's the same quality. But you go and buy that and you don't buy the original, you're missing out on the heritage of the piece. And you might argue, why do I care? Well, why do you care about having a watch to begin with? That is the question here. Especially if you're not a consumer that just buys something off the mall because they saw it, and you're a collector, or you're into the hobby at all in any shape, way, or form, then you should care about the heritage. You should care. If you don't care, then what are you doing in this hobby? That's at least my argument here. And I know that even this might be unpopular, but I will say this. It's one thing for Tudor to copy Rolex. It's like Grand Seiko copying Seiko. It's like Lexus copying Toyota. And it's one thing to copy completely different brands and claim them as your own, having that design with a different logo. It's just not a good look. So let me know what you guys think about heritage. Is it important to you? Do you think it's all marketing? Do you think that design matters, originality matters, or you just don't care? I mean, that's also an argument, right? Thank you so much for watching. Have a happy 4th of July. Until the next one. Ciao.